to the Ohio County Public Library Storytime Online. My name is Miss Jennifer.
And I'm Miss Edie.
And we're so glad you're joining us this week. You know, it's almost Valentine's Day. I hope that you're enjoying your week, maybe making some Valentines for the people in your family or people that you love. We're not really going to necessarily do some Valentine stories today. Do you remember last week we started doing a series of stories on things that you wear and getting dressed? And last week we learned about putting on gloves. Do you remember we had the sign for gloves where you take your hand and you're going to kind of run it up your fingers? So gloves. We learned about gloves and mittens and playing out in the snow. Today we're going to be learning about and hearing some stories about our socks and shoes. Do you know how to tie your shoes? That's kind of a really important thing to learn how to do. But let's learn the sign for socks and shoes. So the sign for socks is you're going to take your pointer fingers on both hands, and you're going to kind of move them back and forth down. So socks. So that's a really easy sign. And then the sign for shoes, you're going to make a fist with your thumb on the outside. You're going to do that for both hands, and you're going to put them together and kind of pound them together. So shoes. Shoes. So we've got socks and shoes. I am hoping you are ready to get started, so let's get our alligators out. Are you ready? A is for alligator, chomp, chomp, chomp. B is for bouncing, so we'll hop, hop, hop. C is for circle, so let's turn around. And D is for we all sit down. And we crisscross applesauce, ready to be a listener. You know, there is a very famous Mother Goose story about a little old lady who lived in a shoe. This is kind of a fun play on some Mother Goose rhymes, and the title of this book is If the Shoe Fits, and the author is Allison Jackson, and the illustrator, the person who drew the pictures, is Carla Firehammer. So let's see, I wonder if you can recognize some of the Mother Goose stories in this book. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread, then took them to live in a new home instead. So there they are, living in the shoe. Let's see where they go next. She's taking them to a hat. She left the old shoe to reside in a hat, which she shortly discovered they shared with a cat. The cat played a fiddle from morning to night and then danced with a spoon till they all fled in fright. The woman then moved to a warm woolen coat, but all of that lint sorely tickled her throat. Then little Jack Horner stopped in for some pie. She decided to give a New Haven a try. She huddled her children inside a green sock, which someone had thoughtfully hung from a clock. But a hickory-dickory mouse scurried through, and she fled with her broth and her family too. The clock just struck one as they jumped in a tub, but 3 men were sitting there, rub-a-dub-dub. A butcher, a baker, a candle man too. So they hid in a wall. What else could they do? The wall soon attracted the king's horses and men, for it seemed that an egg had exploded just then. Humpty Dumpty. So she called for her children and gathered them up, then fearfully led them to a china teacup. Who has a china teacup? Who do you think that might be? Then little Miss Muffet tried taking a sip. The old woman grew peevish and tickled her lip. The girl dropped the teacup and ran for the door, while the mother transported her children once more. The family then settled inside a torn glove. Still the children did nothing but push, yell, and shove. When 24 blackbirds arrived seeking shelter, she instructed her children to run helter-skelter. They discovered a bowl that was empty at least, but King Cole grabbed it, preparing to feast. The family escaped from that terrible house and sought further refuge, invading a blouse. The blouse was then seized by the good Queen of Hearts, who slipped it on quickly to start making tarts. So the family slid down the seam of her sleeve and into a jar. But would you believe? The glass jar belonged to Old Mother Hubbard, who immediately snatched it to put in her cupboard. But the woman and children did manage to rock it. The jar overturned and they fell in a pocket. The pocket was part of a red satin vest, which the Grand Duke of York wore while puffing his chest. He puffed it so full that they squeezed from his suit and landed one by one in his black leather boot. Now the boot was too small for a family this size, but the woman had grown much more patient and wise. If the shoe fits, then wear it, she said to her clan, and she led them right back to where the story began. She was still an old woman who lived in a shoe. She still had those children, but now she knew what to do. She gave them some broth and kissed all their faces, then tucked them in bed and tied up the laces. The end. Are you familiar with some of those Mother Goose nursery rhymes? They're pretty famous stories, aren't they? Another very famous story is a story that I'd like to share with you. This is the story of Pete the Cat. And Pete the Cat has 4 brand new white tennis shoes. And he loves those tennis shoes so much. He sings, I love my white shoes, I love my white shoes, I love my white shoes, I love my white shoes. But then, all of a sudden, splat! Pete the Cat stepped into a big pile of strawberries. What do you think happened to Pete's shoes? It turned his white shoes red. But did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He just kept walking along and singing his song. But he sang, I love my red shoes, I love my red shoes, I love my red shoes, I love my red shoes. When splat, all of a sudden, Pete the Cat stepped into a big pile of blueberries. Well, what happened to his shoes now? The blueberries turned his shoes blue. But did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He just kept walking along and singing his song. I love my blue shoes. 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 When splat, all of a sudden, Pete stepped into a big puddle of mud. Well, now what happened to Pete's shoes? You're right. The mud turned Pete's shoes to brown. But did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He just kept walking along and singing his song. Can you sing it too? I love my brown shoes. 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 When splash, all of a sudden, Pete stepped into a big bucket of water. Well, now what happened to Pete's shoes? All the brown, all the blue, and all the red washed away. And it left Pete's shoes white again. But now Pete's shoes are wet. But did Pete cry? Goodness, no. He kept walking along and singing his song. I love my wet shoes. 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 Because the moral of the story is, it doesn't matter what you step in, it's all good. Right? And this story, if you love Pete the Cat, This story, Pete the Cat, I Love My White Shoes, is by the author Eric Litwin. So there might be something you might want to look up. Miss Edie has a story. This is a very famous book author, Miss Edie. Eve Bunting is the author for the story Miss Edie's going to share with us.
This book is titled, Have You Seen My Blue Socks? I have lost my new blue socks. Did I put them in my box? I know, I put them somewhere near. How could they simply disappear? I will ask my friend the fox, have you seen my new blue socks? I have not seen your new blue socks. Did you look inside your box? Did you ask your friend the ox? I will ask him right away. I will ask him this very day. I have lost my new blue socks. Have you seen them, Mr. Ox? Did you look inside your box? Did you ask your friend the fox? I may have seen your new blue socks. I saw some socks down on the rocks. Thank you, Mr. Ox. I'm off to find my new blue socks. These are socks. Goodness. But they're not new. They're more like purple, not like blue. I'm trying not to be depressed. Without my socks, I feel undressed. I'll ask the peacocks. They might know. They're always strutting to and fro. Peacocks, have you seen my socks? I did not put them in my box. I asked my good friend Mr. Fox. I asked my good friend Mr. Ox. Peacocks, have you seen my socks? They are such a pretty blue. I got them. They are new. How did you lose them? That's a shame. Are those you're wearing now the same? The same? Oh no, that can't be right. All my other socks are white. But I can see a touch of blue underneath your laced up shoe. I'm wearing them? I put them on? I was certain they were gone. I knew I put them somewhere near. I did not know I put them here. Thank you, dear peacocks. At last I found my new blue socks. Yay! Oh, I love that book. Now I've got a book about Mr. Cobbler. Busy little cobbler who fixes shoes. Busy little cobbler with no cap upon your head. Show me a pair of shoes colored. What color is that? Red. Good job. Busy little cobbler, such a happy fellow. Show me a pair of shoes colored yellow. Busy little cobbler with shoes so clean. Show me a pair of shoes colored, what color is that? Green. Good job. Busy little cobbler never has a frown. Show me a pair of shoes colored brown. That's right. Busy little cobbler sewing up a shoe. Show me a pair of shoes colored, yes, blue. Busy little cobbler, quick as a wink. Show me a pair of shoes colored, what color? Yes, pink. Busy little cobbler, hammering on a tack. Show me a pair of shoes colored, what color is that? Yes, it's black. Busy little cobbler with a smile so bright. Show me a pair of shoes colored white. Cute little bunny shoes. Busy little cobbler, please don't think it's strange. Show me a pair of shoes colored orange. Busy little cobbler, I'll ask for the last one. I want to see a My favorite color, purple shoe. And now our fun is done. The end.
Yay! Thank you, Miss Edie. How much fun was that? That was a lot of fun. Did you pick up on the term cobbler? Did you hear Miss Edie say the word cobbler? A cobbler is someone whose job it is to make shoes. All right? I've got one last fun story today. This is my monster. This is the story, 5 Stinky Socks. Does your mom or your dad ever say that you have stinky socks? What we need to do is we need to put stinky socks in the wash, don't we? This particular story is written by the author Jim Benton. Let's see what happens with this monster and his stinky socks. Wonder how his socks got so stinky. Want to know? One stinky sock. I'll tell you why it stinks. I used it to wash the dishes in the kitchen sink. 2 stinky socks. I found one in my shoe. It's black and white, just like a skunk, and it smells as bad. P.U. 3 stinky socks. They're smelling at my feet. I found this one inside the trash that I left outside last week. 4 stinky socks. I have to hold my nose. This smells like a dirty diaper on my little toes. 5 stinky socks. There is no time to lose. I can play outside now if I can find my stinky shoes. The end. 5 stinky socks. Man, that's a lot of feet and a lot of socks. Let's get ready to do some fun activities. No, wait a minute. Let's sing a song before we do. Let's get ready to sing a song. In my book, it talked a little bit about Hickory Dickory Dock. Do you know that song, Hickory Dickory Dock? The mouse ran up the clock. Let's sing a song about putting on our socks. Let's come, maybe we'll do our sign for socks. Okay, and it goes like this. Hickory Dickory Dock, let's put on our socks. We'll walk around without a sound when we put on our socks. Hickory Dickory Dock, let's put on our socks. We'll jump around without a sound when we put on our socks. Hickory Dickory Dock, let's put on our socks. We'll tiptoe around without a sound when we put on our socks. Hickory Dickory Dock, let's put on our socks. We'll run around without a sound when we put on our socks. Good job. Wow, that was a great opportunity to kind of reinforce the sign that we've been learning. You know, you could do all different kinds of actions with that song. We jumped, we walked, we tiptoed, we ran. There are so many amazing things that we can do with our feet. But like I said, let's get ready maybe now to do some activities where we can learn more about things that we can do and things that we learn with socks and shoes. Let's get ready to have some fun. In Miss Edie's story, and I mentioned a little bit about a cobbler. A cobbler is someone whose job it is to make shoes. Do you know what someone would use some of these shoes for? So we've got some red shoes, but what kind of shoes are those? Those are what we call high-heeled shoes, aren't they? You might go out, dress up fancy if you're going to wear shoes like those. What about these shoes? What kind of shoes are those? They're yellow, but they're rain boots. So we wear these kinds of shoes for certain kinds of weather. Whenever it's rainy or there might be puddles outside. What about these shoes? Elves wear these shoes, don't they? Maybe you know somebody who wears this type of shoe. These are some work boots, aren't they? Yeah, if you're working somewhere, you might have to wear work boots. These are very special shoes. Not everybody can wear these shoes. These are baby shoes, aren't they? Yeah, they're very tiny. Babies have to have special kinds of shoes. There's someone else that needs very special shoes. Who wears these kinds of shoes? A ballerina or a dancer would wear these types of shoes. What about these? These would be some dress-up shoes again, right? Some black dress shoes. What do we wear these for? These are for just kind of walking around your house, maybe at bedtime or early in the morning when the floor might be cold, right? What about these? These might be kind of hard to see. These are flip-flops. Where would you wear flip-flops? Maybe in the summertime or going to the beach. The last kind of shoe, I kind of think of this, kind of looks like a hiking shoe or a running shoe, some kind of a tennis shoe. Yeah. So there are different types of shoes that we wear for different activities or different types of weather. You might have a lot of different types of shoes too, but you wouldn't want to wear shoes very often unless it was flip-flops or some bedroom slippers without some socks. Socks kind of help make shoes feel a little bit better, don't they? There are a lot of fun things that you can do with socks. So one of the activities that you might want to do, I know a couple of weeks ago we did some sorting with the gloves. I guess it was last week we did some sorting with gloves. Another fun activity to do that involves sorting is maybe getting a bunch of socks out, especially if you have a lot of different types of patterned socks, and see if your preschooler can match the socks. One of the things that I noticed from our big pile of socks here was that I had some socks that looked similar. So what you're doing with sorting, or what your preschooler is doing, is they're looking for kind of differences and similarities, okay? So I noticed that these two socks look similar, but are they a match? So you might have some socks that are similar to one another, and that will really test your preschoolers' matching skills to have some. These actually do not match. Notice the stripes are different. Even though they both have stripes and polka dots, they are different colors. These two socks do not match. This sock is actually the one that matches the one with black stripes. So that might be a fun activity to do. Another thing that I noticed in working with our big pile of socks was that what socks look like when they're turned right side out. Look how different it looks when it's inside out, when it's the wrong way. Isn't that kind of cool? You kind of get to see how socks are made. You can see all the threads and how they've been sewn together whenever you put them inside out. Another fun thing to do with some socks is teach your children, maybe this would be a good motor skills, how to like turn or fold socks. So gather up a big bunch of socks, maybe from around your house, and do some sorting. Looking for similarities and differences is what you're doing when you're doing a sorting activity. Another fun thing to do, maybe with some old socks, I just kind of grabbed one of my husband's old socks, is to make some sock puppets. So maybe gather some socks that you aren't using anymore and work with your preschooler to make a sock puppet, and then put on a little play. So that's a great early literacy activity. I've just gotten some odds and end buttons, pom-poms, some yarn. You can use craft glue or some hot glue if you want it to be ready pretty quickly. And maybe make some sock puppets with some just odds and ends that you have around your house. And lastly, it's so important to teach your children how to tie their shoes. And learning, one of the things we didn't really go over in Storytime was left and right. And so reinforcing those from the earliest ages, you can absolutely be teaching your preschoolers and your infants left and right. I would encourage you to do that. And also, like I said, as early as you can, like around 4 or especially by 5, maybe learning how to tie. Now we've got this terrific little manipulative that you can come to the public library and you can check this out, okay? And it's already like set up like a little shoe with laces on it. But if you want to, you can also go online. I just printed a template off of the internet and cut that out of cardstock. You could use like an old cereal box or something like that so that it's really sturdy. punched out the holes and just got a piece of yarn so that my preschoolers could practice lacing and tying. So a great skill. It used to be that it was a part of like school readiness was knowing how to tie. I don't know with so many shoes having Velcro, I don't know if they require that, but it absolutely, whether it's learning to tie shoes or learning to tie a lot of other things. There are a lot of other things other than shoes that we tie. So maybe practicing that skill with your preschooler. Also, we still have, I mentioned that it's Valentine's week. We still have some preschool Valentine craft kits available here at the library. You are welcome to come by and pick those up while supplies last. We're open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9:30 to 4:30. We are expecting some bad weather, so you may want to call before you make the trip out, most especially. But please, so as long as that we have kits available, we would love for you to come by and pick those up. I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's week. Let's get ready to sing one last song before we go. This song is called Old Shoes, New Shoes. So we're going to kind of just, it's a great song that you can do with your family and just see who's in your family and what color shoes that they're wearing. We're going to kind of start it off here with Miss Edie and myself. So it goes, old shoes, new shoes, Miss Jennifer is wearing brown shoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I stomp them on the floor. Old shoes, new shoes, Miss Edie is wearing tennis shoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I stomp them on the floor. Old shoes, new shoes, Noah's wearing blue shoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I stomp them on the floor. Old shoes, new shoes, Banks is wearing gray shoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I stomp them on the floor. Old shoes, new shoes, Amelia's wearing pink shoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I stomp them on the floor. So you could just do that with more people in your family. What a great song to end our day learning about socks and shoes. Next week, we're going to be learning about pajamas. During this pandemic time, you might have spent a lot of time in pajamas. And learning about pajamas and wearing pajamas is a lot of fun. So we'll have some fun stories next week about pajamas. But let's get ready for our hands to give thanks. Are you ready? Our hands give thanks with a clap, clap, clap. Our feet give thanks with a tap, tap, tap. Clap, 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 tap, tap, tap. We roll them together and we wave goodbye. See you next week.